Many thanks for staying tuned. It's still the conversation here on Lagos Television, and we did tell you just before we went on that break that one of the conversations we'll be having today will be the outcomes of the just concluded or recently concluded Cop29 conference held in Baku, Azerbaijan. Of course, Lagos State was not only represented at that event, but also made giant strides at that particular event. And we do have a guest in the house this morning who will be telling us aftermath of the conference, some of the takeaways from the conference and the action plans by the Lagos State government in days and years to come. And I did say that this would not only be the responsibility of government, but also you and I. We also have our roles to play here at ensuring that some of the action plans that will be mentioned today come to fruition. And joining us on the conversation this morning is Special Advisor to Mr. Governor on Climate Change and Circular Economy, Titi Oshude. Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Right, so at the COP conference, of course, Lagos State was not only represented, but of course the delegation, fruitful deliberation, if you ask me. But then, as you went into that conference, what were the targets before you went onto that conference, and then after the conference, were those targets met at the conference?
Thank you very much once again for having me. We had a vision set before us, and it was a vision set to align with Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's themes plus agenda, and was essentially to advance climate action, because we realized that we need to be able to foster sustainable development, and climate action seated within the framework of circular economy would be our approach to be able to drive that literacy, that advocacy, and that sort of knowledge. It was also important for us to be able to drive the vision for a resilient megacity that Lagos State is, and it's emerging, to be. So we showcased a couple of our projects, the ones that we have experimented by simulating circular economy practices. And we were also able to drive the vision to make Lagos State a hub for green financing and for technology transfer. And those were the targets that we set before us before going to Baku.
All right, so those were the targets. And of course, when you got to Baku and of course you met with all of the people there, there was an expression of interest signed with the EU Africa Chamber of Commerce to catalyze green financing and technology transfer. You did mention here the financing part. And so what exactly is this all about?
So green financing is, it's how you determine and, evaluate performances against the ESG framework. And the ESG framework are they're essentially the indicators that you use to measure what level of impact you have on the environment, what level of impact in terms of social inclusion, and also the quality of governance that is driven. But all of that is also shielded, from our side of town around economic argument, because we find that over time, the best way that we're able to connect with communities is through the economic trajectory, through the economic approach. Once we're able to drive areas that benefit or incentivization or reward schemes, we're able to capture people's understanding, and we can also get them to be involved in the change management behavior or the attitudes that we require for them to be disposed to climate actions, climate policy, the friendly climate behavior that we require, and it cuts across various sectors of the economy.
Right. I'm sure that since you came on board and then interacting with a lot of Lagos residents, issues around circular economy is still kind of new to us here, and we're still trying to wrap our heads around what circular economy is all about. I know that your office is doing a great job in integrating this and making a little, more people understand what this is all about. But also, aftermath of the conference, how do you intend to integrate the circular economy principles across sectors?
Our positioning as a global leader, in Lagos State, is very, very pivotal for us to get our people to be more knowledgeable about circular economy. Circular economy is essentially how to reuse, reduce, and minimize waste as much as possible, or repurpose waste as much as possible. For the community members, every household generates waste, and we're looking at an average of about 30 kilograms, on a daily. So when we have conversations with them, we don't just have that talk anymore. We're going into actions and driving the sort of activity that they can see firsthand, how they can begin to convert their waste into either cash or social subsidies through the partnerships and the collaborations that we have been able to establish with ministries such as agriculture, health, and even transportation, because these are amenities that our everyday people want to be able to have access to. So if we're driving reward schemes through, those amenities, through those social provisions, and also through cash, then there's a strong inducement for them to be able to commit and change their behavior and be predisposed to responsible disposal of waste, or be sure or be confident about infusing cost functions in projects that they want to run. So through various cadres within the economy, the community, individuals, the business enterprise, the ministry, the department, the agency, the institutions they need to start to begin to recalibrate their minds around how to reduce and minimize waste in processes, in supply chain, in systems, such that if you're saving cost, then you're making money, so there are two ways to be able to make the money. So you're increasing, your profit, or you're saving cost. And ultimately, the economic argument brings to fore the ability to even earn an extra, because they are seated within carbon credits and people who use data. So we were able to get that sort of partnership with financial institutions. Access Bank is very, very strong, in driving, in being instrumental in structuring that financial solution, that we need to be able to attract the green investment, such that green financing can be established, right? And then the EUA Chamber of Commerce are already positioned to help us to drive that technology transfer and also bring in that sort of funding that can augment what is locally being generated. And key also, the critical aspect are the carbon asset managers, and we had Carbonivity, who are very, very vast in the area of evaluation of data and also have experience in carbon credits.
Right. I'm sure that, of course, it was a gathering of knowledge sharing, and of course, you also had, meeting with people who also, by exchanging ideas at the conference. And so, how do you intend to scale some of these new things that you've learned? How do you intend to bring this on board with the climate initiatives already on ground here in Lagos?
First and foremost, that we have adapted various programs and initiatives that are, unique to us.
Right. So when you say adapt, homegrown?
Yes, absolutely homegrown. Because a lot of times, when we get the international or foreign partners come to bear, the important thing is that even if they're coming and they want to help us, they may not be privy to our nuance or our culture and the way we do things. So our solutions have to be adaptable to us. They have to be, we need to take in these idiosyncrasies that are particular to us into consideration. I tell you, for instance, we had a project run, EcoCirculate, which is one of our very popular ones because it has fleshed out in so many different ways. EcoCirculate, we ran it in Badagry, and it was an eco waste valorization program where we can, we sensitized the communities to be able to have them convert their waste to anything that they wanted. But on the back end, we were also able to help our businesses that are seated within our business network to also see how they can begin to perform and drive their ESG compliance data and metrics, and on the back end as well, we have those collection centers that we begin to position in the communities. Within communities, within regions and locations, there are wastes that are prevalent. For instance, in a place like Badagry, we had assumed that they were going to have a lot of waste that would be plastic or PET bottles, but we had textile as the biggest volume of waste that was generated from there.
Could that also be because of the industries around there, or the water body?
Well, so if we were talking about the waterways or the coastal, then we'll be saying things that come from the oceans or from the shores. We'll be talking bamboo, we'll be talking about palms. But that we didn't have all of that. We had textile, and we thought, these are people that are, predominantly in the bottom of the pyramid. So how do we then have textile? So if we had brought, for instance, that's a good example. We had brought the platform on the cowrie cards, and asked them, if they would like to have their waste in exchange for discount on their cowrie card. We didn't get so much from that end. Buy into that. Why? Because the stretch of the rail hasn't totally reached Badagry
so
yet.
Also that need to actually tailor into those communities.
We must assess the needs that are prevalent in those communities.
So assumption doesn't work here?
No way, it doesn't. Neither do the funding. You don't just bring the funding and just say you're just going to run the show.
You need to get the community
needs analysis, the units, the community influencers, the community people have to be able to, we need to confirm with them. We need to be able to, work with them and find out what is prevailing, what is the gap that they would require that we bridge.
Right. I'm glad you used Badagry as a case study here, because I was going to ask you that, is there a concentration in the urban areas? And so are we also carrying along those in the very rural areas? And so you've mentioned Badagry here. And so the other rural parts of Lagos, because Lagos is large. And so other areas, are you also going into the interiors to ensure that this is not just a campaign that is staying with the learned? But you'll be amazed that even those there also need some of those things that we're talking about. So are we intentional about taking this campaign also to those areas that hitherto may not even understand all of the English you were speaking about?
We're very, very particular about replicating what we have started. In the light of that, we have activated Baduri in Aja. We have activated Idiaraba, which is close to Luth, right? We have established various models in terms of waste. So we have at Idiaraba established a model of waste to green energy to biogas. We've established a model to waste valorization model as well. We've also established a loop system where it is that there's a supply from the kitchen of Luth, for instance, for organic materials, for biogas into the facility, the correctional facility at Idiaraba. And we also established a model of waste for food, for organic farm produce, because we curated a farm where the byproduct of the biogas provides organic and fertilizer into the farm. In Baduri, we worked with organizations, a women organization that sits over 100 to 200 enterprises, nano and micro enterprises, and we're working with them for their supermarket to be able to drive essential, sustainable goods to be sold, especially now that we're entering into the Yuletide season. We have also worked in trade fair. Trade fair, we ran a waste valorization program for up to 5-6 days,
during the
activity, we interfaced with well over 2,000 community members who came in there, and they were able to see firsthand. There was a young man who did not believe it. So because he just wanted to test it, he went around trade fair picking up bottles, PET bottles and everything. He came back to our material recovery people. They weighed it, they gave him 1,500. Wow. He went back again,
to look for
picked
more.
up some more, you know. Ultimately, he made 5,000 naira, you know, from those bottles. And he spoke to one of our communication people and said, I want to go and buy fufu. I'm going to find something
he wanted to eat,
you know.
okay.
So what we're saying essentially is that there's a burgeoning narrative, there's a burgeoning awareness right now amongst our people, and the plan is to start building a roadmap that can enter into the nooks and the crannies. And we can't do that if we are not empowering our business enterprises. Right. The business enterprises are the ones that will be strategically positioned because they want to profiteer. Right. They will definitely begin to drive that narrative and get our community members.
They will take your story to others. Before we allow you go this morning, I know you mentioned a bank earlier on, but are you also looking at ways to get more banks and financial institutions on board to help, especially with this green financing project?
So we have what we call the Eco-Nexus. Eco-Nexus is a platform that sits well over 60 or 70 financial institutions, FMCGs, corporate organizations and leaders in those corporate organizations, where we begin to now cohabit and begin to cross-pollinate ideas as to how to move the sustainable development goals and circular economy, as in green economy, to the next level. We did our launch about a month ago, and our desire is that we're going to, on a monthly basis, send in reports of what we're doing, and that way we begin to build capacity. One of the things that we want to do right now is to be able to drive some level of thought leadership in terms of understanding what the EESG framework is about, so that they can begin to benchmark their performances, and they can also begin to shoot and pivot the decisions that they make with regards to social inclusion, with regards to financial regeneration, you know, and environmental sustainability. They can benchmark their outputs, you know, against that. Ultimately, you know, careers and professions and competences will be built, but it's essentially to start to build up that conversation and, you know, gear our mapping to the next level.
And there's the power in hear and tell another. It works a great deal.
Absolutely.
All right, we'd have to leave this conversation here this morning. Thank you so much, Titi Oshodi, essay on climate change and circular economy, for being here on the program.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good day.
We'll take a quick break. When we return, the conversation continues.